Boyd loves this blanket so much. He loves sleeping on it. Oh, okay. It's not the most graceful. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna be finishing up a crochet blanket that I've been working on for quite some time, so I'm really excited. I'm also gonna take you through a tutorial if you want to make this blanket yourself or make something similar to it. I'll hold up the corner of it at least, even though Void is on the other half, so you can see, but I'll include a better picture and diagram and everything. But it's just a basic granny square blanket. I used Bernat's fluffee yarn, but any chunky 5 yarn will do for this if you're wanting to follow the pattern along. I'll show you how I made the granny squares and how I'm going to be seaming it up and adding the little embellishments. Come along with me while we do that today. Okay, so to start off, I have my 8mm hook, and as I explained, this is the yarn that I'm using. Perfect. Additionally, the written pattern for this granny square will be included in the description of this video and on the screen. So we're gonna start off the granny square with a magic circle or magic ring, whatever you wanna call it. This is the method that I use to make my magic ring. I don't know if it's correct, but this is just how I learned when I learned it. So you take the yarn in your yarn holding hand and you put it in your palm, just like this, across all 4 fingers. And I like to have a little bit of a tail hanging out the bottom, just to grip onto. Over your top 2 fingers below your first knuckle, wrap it underneath and make an X so that it comes out on the top on top of your 2 knuckles there. Take your hook under the bottom and over the top. Pull it through, twist. I like to move it up my hook a little bit, and then with my hook hand, I hold just this intersection here where all of the yarn is coming together. Hold that and slip out my yarn holding hand. Now this will leave you with your ring. Arrange my yarn holding hand how I actually want to use it, and we can work into the circle here. So we're going to start with a chain 2 for the first row. Chain 2. And this is just to start our double crochet. This doesn't count as a double crochet stitch. I like to do chain 2 rather than chain 3. I don't know if my chains are just bigger than the normal person's, but the chain 2 is always the height of the double crochet for me, and the chain 3 leaves too much extra bump. So if you want to do a chain 3, feel free to do that. And then you're going to work 2 double crochet into the loop into this one. So yarn over, double crochet, and I like to just hold the circle, I guess, when I'm working. Your second double crochet, and then chain 2. And that's going to be the general stitch and motif throughout the entire granny square, this double crochet chain 2. So we're then going to repeat that 3 more times throughout the circle. It's hard to do it on this table. I admire all the crochet tutorial makers out there. So that should leave you with 4 clusters separated by chain 2 spaces. Now you're going to pull the end and it should close up your circle for you, and you're left with the entire first row. Now you're going to want to slip stitch into those chains, the second chain at the start of the row. So we're going to slip stitch here into that second chain, and you have your first mini square, and it's, as you can see, the mini version of the larger square. So it's just 2 double crochet, 2 chain clusters around the square, and we're going to repeat that for the next row. So we're going to chain 2 again, or chain 3, double crochet into the same space that you just chained. You can see I just chained out of here. I'm going to double crochet into that same space, double crochet into the double crochet of the previous row. Then we're at our first chain 2 space. So you're gonna wanna do 2 double crochet, 2 chains, 2 double crochet, again, all in the corner chain 2 space from the previous row. And that's how it's gonna be throughout the entire granny square. You're gonna double crochet into the double crochets of the previous row, and in each corner space, do 2 double crochet, 2 chain, 2 double crochet, all into that same space. So now we're gonna go around double crochet until we reach the next corner space. Now, because you are increasing so much in each corner, sometimes the corner stitches that we just added will actually cover up the double crochet from the previous row. So I like to push it a little bit more into the corner so you can really access that first double crochet in the next cluster. So we will do 2 double crochets in the 2 double crochets from the previous row, and then double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in the chain 2 space. We're going to repeat that for the other last 2 sides of the square for row 2. Once you've come all the way around, you're going to slip stitch into the second chain of that first chain 2 that we did in the round. So slip stitch, and you're done with row 2. So you should have done 6 double crochet on each side plus the corner spaces, just to make sure you're on the right track there. Moving on to the third row, we're going to follow the same pattern that we have been doing. Start, of course, 2 chain, double crochet into the stitch we just chained out of, and double crochet in all the double crochets in the previous row. Once we reach a corner space, do 2 double crochet, 2 chain, 2 double crochet, all in the corner space. Next, we will crochet across the double crochets of the previous row. We have 6 on each side now. So you'll do 6 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 2 chain, 2 double crochet in the corner for the next 3 sides. This yarn is so soft that the hook sometimes just slips out of the yarn. So once we reach the top of the granny square where we first chained up, you're going to finish that last corner piece, and then it's going to be 2 double crochet into the previous 2 double crochet spaces and slip stitch again on the second chain of the first row in the round. And that is the 3rd level done. The 4th level is exactly the same. Chain 2, double crochet into the same space. And now we are going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets across the top in each of the previous stitches. And in the corner spaces, as usual, we're gonna do 2 double crochet, 2 chain, 2 double crochet. Or I guess it's chain 2. I always say it backwards. And then across the other 3 sides, 10 double crochets along each side, and then in each corner space, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Okay, once you reach that last end space on that top row, you're going to double crochet 4 into those last 4 double crochets on the previous row. Then you're going to slip stitch in the second chain of that previous row, and then you're going to finish off. And there is your granny square. So it should end up having 14 double crochet along each side, plus the chain 2 spaces in the corner. I ended up creating 28 of each color, but obviously how many you make will depend on how large of a blanket you're making. And as you can see, I chose the colors I did because they match our Lego flowers and rug and existing couch and blanket perfectly. Always have to show off the nails real quick. Okay, now I'm gonna be showing you guys how I like to seam my granny squares together. This, I believe, is called the mattress stitch. I'll have to fact check that. But this is how I like to seam my granny squares together, just because it leaves them really flush against each other like this, and you won't be able to see the seam. So all you need is to take 2 of your granny squares and put them wrong side together. I like to seam them up right side out. So this is right side and right side. And you'll just need another piece of yarn. You can use one of the same yarns from this project. This is just a random yarn that I had, but you want one pretty similar to the weight of the actual yarn that you used. It just works better that way, and you won't be able to see the color once you are done. So let's jump into it. You want to start by taking your first square right side facing you, and we're going to work into that chain 2 space that we made, but the chains themselves. So you're going to want to go into the last chain 2 space and bring your needle up through the first actual double crochet. So it'll look something like that. Pull that through, and you'll want to leave a little bit of a tail so you can weave it in and you don't pull it all the way through when you actually seam it up. Then you're going to be attaching your second granny square, and you're going to do the same thing. So we're going to have wrong sides facing each other, and you're actually going to be looking from this direction the entire time. So wrong sides facing each other, same exact thing. Work into that loop of that second chain and bring it up through the first double crochet. And then you pull that together. Don't pull it too hard because then your tail will come through. But that's what that first seam should look like. So if you're holding your 2 sides together like this, the whole entire time you're kind of going to be working back loop only for the square closest to you and front loop only for this square on this side. So we're going to be working almost like these 2 back loops together, these 2 front loops together. So let's do that. You're going to actually work down through where you came out of your last stitch on this side. So we're going to go down and bring it up in the next double crochet. Like that, so kind of around the back loops. Now we're gonna go back and do that on the other side. So where we just came out from the yellow, we're gonna go back in and come out where that next double crochet is. And you can start just going back and forth like that, almost zippering down the granny squares. And for squares like this, I had obviously crocheted the tension a little bit differently, so you can see that the green square is actually a little bit bigger than the yellow square. This is why I like seaming up granny squares this way, because even if this is longer, you're not working directly across where I'll have too much green left over. You're working stitch by stitch. So I know that there is the same amount of stitches across both of these. So as long as I keep going stitch by stitch, it will make the granny squares almost be the same size, if that makes sense. It's like its own blocking almost. Okay, we are nearing the end, so you're just gonna work into the last double crochet on either side. And I like to leave it just on the stitch of the last double crochet for both of them when I pull it tight, because those stitches are more durable. So I'm gonna take off my needle, and then this is the satisfying part. So right now, obviously, you can still see the white seam, but we're gonna do it, and we're gonna pull both of the sides together. And look at that. No show seam, yay. And you can kind of stretch it along. You don't wanna, you know, press it too tight like this, where your granny squares are no longer squares. You want them to be spread out where they're at a comfortable length. But there you go, no show seam. But now I'm gonna show you how to join up the squares with the other squares around them as well, because this took a little bit of time for me to figure out. I also want to say, I don't know that this is the right way that you're supposed to do the mattress stitch, or when I'm about to show you how to connect 4 squares together, I don't know if that's the right way you're supposed to do it, but it's the way I like to do it from trial and error. This is just what I think looks the best, at least for this blanket. So take my advice or don't. Okay, so these are actually the last 2 squares of the blanket itself. So they are gonna be going right here. So I'm gonna show you working from where I'm currently at, attaching these 4 corners together, and then you would just continue to work across, and then obviously work down the other way as well. But let's start. So when you're attaching 4 squares like this together, we ended this previous row just how we did with these 2 right here. I pulled this tight, and on this side I've actually started the conjoining process for the 4 corners. All I've done so far is I put a stitch from the last double crochet on the front here. So I went in that last stitch and out the top chain of this side. So on the side facing you, we're now out that first chain space, and we're gonna take the square that is going to be parallel to it, and we're gonna do, so on the same side, instead of zigzagging back and forth, we're working on the same side now. We went in the yellow, in that last double crochet, out the chain, and now on the pink side, we're gonna go in that second chain and out the first double crochet, just like how we did when we started these 2 squares without attaching to anything else. Act like you're doing that, pull that through. So now we have 3 connected. So we've gone from the blue over, through the double crochet, out the chain, through the chain, out the double crochet, and now we're gonna attach that last square by moving back across to this blue square. And we're just gonna take that front loop of that second chain, go through there, take our last granny square here, and we're gonna work like we did with the pink square, in that chain and out the first double crochet. We'll pull that all tight, and you can see how it creates a nice little 4 corners, how it'll end up actually looking. I feel like that gives the strongest joining method that I've tried, at least when attaching these 4. And then you would just continue on down like we did for the previous squares. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm sure there are a million mattress stitch tutorials as well on YouTube, but this is just what has worked for me. I feel like some tutorials I've tried don't end up being no-show, and this way does end up being no-show. So try what works for you though. And I'm gonna work across here, finish up the rest of the seaming, and then we're gonna do the embellishments. This is all the squares I have left to attach. going to now, I think, weave in all the ends, and then we're gonna do the embellishment after. I'm not gonna set my sights too high like I did yesterday, so I'm just hoping to weave in all the ends today, and if we get farther than that, we do, and it's great. Cute, cute. I like this little velvet trim. Okay guys, I totally forgot that this had happened. One thing that you'll probably want to look out for when you are weaving in the ends for your granny squares, if when you're weaving in your end, you go through the loop backwards, basically if you undo the stitch by accident, what you'll end up with is what I have here. Once you fully weave it in and cut off the end, then it will unravel the first magic circle. So what you can do if that happens to you, which I don't know if I'm just stupid and this isn't the thing that happened to anybody else, but I had like 10 granny squares on here that had this problem, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it seemed like a lot. Like I did it wrong 10 times. You're kidding me. But if this happens to you, you can just take a piece of scrap yarn, or I have like cuttings from weaving in the other ends of this yellow yarn, so I'm just taking a little piece of one of those. You want to tie your scrap piece to the end of the magic circle that is still left intact, so the little end that's unweaving. So tie a little scrap yarn to that, take your darning needle, and you can just go back through the loops and then tie it up and seal it up for good, because you obviously don't want your granny squares falling apart from the middle out when you're using it as a blanket. So just a little thing to keep in mind. I started off by adding just a simple white border around the entire blanket comprised of single crochet. I then added in these cute little X's in each of the corners where the squares met. To make these X's, I started out by cutting a strand of yarn that was about 1 foot long. Working with the wrong side facing me, I took one end of the yarn up through the chain 2 space in the 3rd row of one of the corners, and then the other end up through the chain 2 space diagonally across. I then wrapped it through those 2 spaces one more time. Next, I brought the yarn over to one of the unworked chain 2 spaces and pulled it through the other diagonal twice. Then I finished off by tying the 2 ends together. This will leave you with this X shape with 2 lines on the back and your normal X on the front. Okay, you guys can probably see, but the finished blanket is behind me here, but I'm really happy with how it ended up turning out. It looks really cartoony. What's the right word for this? Spring quilt picnic vibes, and it matches the color on our couch perfectly. Anyway guys, if you liked this video, make sure to like it and subscribe and be on the lookout for my future videos, and I'll see you guys soon. Fleet shirt.